What are some oddly specific signs that someone's a good person? They keep the trash with them until they find a dustbin. That's just common decency. When someone noticed you were going to talk in a group but get cut off, then later they say you were about to say something, right? This was one of the ways I knew my boyfriend liked me before we were together. Lol, we had a group of chatty people, but he would ask, "Wait, what were you about to say?" Like even when it obviously wasn't important. I was new to their group. They all knew each other for a long time and often talked over me, but he always made room for me. This is the one I know I do. I'm very aware of when people get cut off and you look at them and you can see the discomfort or disappointment in their eyes. My ex-girlfriend wasn't very assertive, and when we hung out with our friends she'd get talked over a lot, so I made a point to make sure she got cut off as little as possible, and she actually made a lot of progress to do it herself. They wait for you when you bend down to tie your shoes. I fucking hate when you're with a group of people and you bend down to tie your shoe and they just keep walking. What the fuck, guys? Is this not the standard? They pick up nails, screws or sharp objects they come across from the parking lot or road so people don't get flat tires. Or my dad does this. I didn't know anybody actually appreciated this. Thank you. I know my boss is a good person because he's never said anything mean about a rude client or competitive business. It's always, "Those guys do awesome work, that guy is just the best man." I like dudes like that. I like to know how those people maintain their mental health though. They can admit when they are wrong about something without getting angry or defensive. Someone can admit they were wrong to them and they won't abuse that opportunity to push the point. I love being proven wrong. As I get older I am fact-checking more and more. I find it nice to be called out for being wrong so long as they aren't a dick about it. It lets me learn more and usually leads to a decent discussion. Even if they don't quite understand or relate to a topic you brought up, they ask follow-up questions. Bonus points if they don't seem particularly interested in the topic, but they still remain invested in the conversation since you're excited to talk about it. It always flusters me when I've accidentally bored someone or stalled conversation, so the fact that some try to keep it running to avoid awkward silence feels really sweet to me. I do this with my husband. He's a roofer, and I know some of the stuff of what he's talking about, but if I don't and ask what it is then he gets really excited to tell me about it. They say good things about people behind their backs. I would never say this to her face, but she's a wonderful person and a gifted artist. Everyone I know talks shit about other people behind their backs. I've caught most everyone I know talking about me, which is why I have trust issues. Then I met my friend, Jelly Bean. We were in the office one day, obviously not recently, when one of our coworkers said something snide about me. I had my headphones on and my back was to her. I couldn't hear a thing. Jelly Bean jumped her ass. The coworker apologized to me. I accepted it, but I had no idea what happened. Jelly Bean filled me in. I've never had anyone defend me like that. Heart. They read through these comments looking for ways to improve themselves. They found me. I get quite a few passes here, good stuff. When conflict arises, they seek peace by being introspective. In addition, they seek to resolve the dispute directly with that person as opposed to gossiping or triangulating. Quietly helping you with stuff without prompting/asking for help. No one's a mind reader though. Asking to help would be better, surely? They look engaged when you speak to them, and are patient if you're struggling to explain something. I'm so used to feeling like I have to sell my conversation points to hold anyone's attention that someone actually asking me to expand more on my thoughts really takes me off guard. Yes, I love having a conversation where you both are like, "Damn dude, it was nice talking to you." If I see someone really struggling with conversation I try to help it along, but I get nervous that I'm being a dick. Someone who remembers a tiny detail about your life or something you like and brings it up in convo much later on. Haha, short-term memory loss gang, where you at? No, seriously, I can't remember where the meeting was. I remember a little too much, I feel, skull, like I know the cars my co-workers drive and where they park. And if they told me their birthday and ages, I'd probably never forget that either. I know one of my co-workers takes a week-long vacation every November. I could list off lots of things, but I'm lazy, lol. If they see someone looking confused in a public space, asking if they need directions. I grew up in the Midwest and eventually moved to a bigger coastal city. I never really noticed how much friendlier people were in the Midwest until I visited after a couple of years of being away. I was walking around downtown trying to find a certain address when a random person walked up to me and asked if I needed help. That's when it really struck me how different the culture was where I grew up compared to where I moved. Those types of people are the best. When in a group of people walking, they make sure nobody gets left behind by spacing themselves between the leaders and the stragglers and keeping an eye on both. I took a caving class in college and part of the class was a required overnight trip. We didn't camp in the cave, but we did some caving the night we arrived and then spent a good 8 hours caving the next day. It was essentially a semi-rigorous hike, but the only light was from our headlamps and we had a few tight spots to crawl through. One of my classmates was a bigger guy who didn't have the most graceful people skills. He'd talk a lot, mostly sarcastic comments he intended as jokes, so a lot of our classmates didn't like him too much. Well, we got to a section of our caving trip where we were walking through sand and we'd go around a lot of corners. Luckily, there was no way to get lost, but this particular classmate was slowing way down. Literally no one in our class waited for him. Not even the instructor. I didn't think this was safe because he was having so much trouble just keeping his feet under him. I tried to stay equally distant from the main group and my classmate, but we fell so far behind that I couldn't see the lights from their headlamps anymore. It got to a point where I would stop and listen, just to make sure I was still in shouting distance in case something happened. I was slightly panicked, just because my imagination was running away with me, but I certainly wasn't impressed by any of our other classmates after that. Sorry for the long reply, wasn't expecting it to be so wordy. Tilda. I'm the type of guy who will wait for the guy to do his laces and watch the rest of the group walk away. Then we both do the awkward jog to catch up to the group. When a person can set a positive environment. Unnecessary anecdote, once my friends and I were playing a drinking game, Kings, where you had to make up rules that are normally supposed to make people a little uncomfy. That night, my sweet friend set a rule that you have to give a compliment before each turn. 20 people ended up crying, supporting each other, and reminding everyone of their worth. That's a good person, and that goes down as my favorite college memory. Damn, that's a beautiful story if I ever heard one. Hopefully some lifelong friendships were forged that day. Smile. My friends do this. It's really nice. I was being silly and had everyone do a push-up before they had to drink. We just had the give each other a compliment round and had it twice. We were all cheering each other on, doing push-ups. I was showing the people who couldn't do one, how to do box and knee push-ups, and there was no shame in doing them. I do them on my knees because my hand can't handle the pressure of my entire weight. Injuries suck. That group are so freaking nice and supportive. I'm so lucky to have fallen in with them. Not stealing money you find. A lot of people in my family have found decent amounts of cash that people have misplaced and returned it. I just would feel terrible if I lost up to a paycheck in cash and someone just swiped it. My cousin, when he was a preteen, lost his wallet in Walmart and it had the money in it to buy him a Nintendo Wii or something when they were brand new. My uncle had basically told him too bad, so sad. And when they got home, my aunt was so livid with my uncle. She drove back to the store with my cousin and Walmart made an announcement and the wallet and all the cash was returned. My dad was at the courthouse one day and found an unmarked envelope with like $500 in it. He looked around and eventually saw a woman sobbing hysterically. He asked her what was wrong and she told him she'd lost the money she had to pay her rent. He was so excited that he got to give it back to her. He was a good man. After going shopping with my mum, she accidentally left her wallet with $500 in cash inside on top of the roof and drove off. This man saw and followed us all the way home, about 15 minutes, and gave it back to her. She gave him $50 to buy a box. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.